Have you ever wondered what people thought Africa was like hundreds, or even thousands, of years ago? The story of how the world saw Africa is a fascinating journey through myths, trade, and exploration. Let's rewind the clock and see how perceptions of this incredible continent have evolved. Way back in ancient times, the Egyptians knew their neighbors in Nubia, to the south, and the land of Punt, believed to be somewhere around modern-day Somalia or Eritrea. They saw these places as sources of gold, incense, and exotic goods. To them, Africa wasn't some mysterious land. It was a known world of powerful kingdoms and valuable trade partners. The Greeks and Romans had a different perspective. Their knowledge was mostly limited to North Africa. They knew Egypt, Carthage, and the coastal regions well. But what about the vast interior, south of the Sahara Desert? For them, this was a land of mystery, which they often called Ethiopia, a term they used for the lands inhabited by people with darker skin. They filled in the gaps with incredible stories. The famous historian Herodotus wrote about dog-headed men, people with no heads who had faces on their chests, and giant ants that dug up gold. It sounds wild, but these tales captured the imagination of the ancient world. They weren't necessarily meant to be malicious. They were simply trying to explain a world they couldn't see for themselves. Then came the Islamic Golden Age. From the 7th century onwards, Arab scholars and traders traveled extensively across the Sahara. They established thriving trade routes, exchanging salt for gold with powerful West African empires like Ghana, Mali, and Sun. Think of the legendary Mansa Musa, the emperor of Mali, whose incredible wealth from gold astounded the world during his pilgrimage to Mecca in the 14th century. Scholars like Ibn Battuta traveled across much of the known world, including a long journey through West Africa. He didn't write about monsters. He wrote about the complex societies, the justice systems, the trade, and the daily life he witnessed. His accounts gave the world one of its first realistic, detailed glimpses into the empires of sub-Saharan Africa. By the 15th century, European explorers, particularly the Portuguese, began sailing down the African coast. Their main goal was to find a sea route to the spices of Asia. Initially, their maps were filled with sea monsters and warnings of boiling seas at the equator. But, as they sailed further, they started charting the coastline accurately. They encountered sophisticated kingdoms like the Congo and Benin, famous for their stunning bronze and ivory artwork. However, this era also marked the tragic beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, which would profoundly and brutally reshape both Africa and the world's perception of it for centuries to come. From a land of myth and legend in the eyes of the Greeks, to a continent of powerful empires known to Arab traders, and finally a coastline charted by European mariners, the early descriptions of Africa are a mirror of their time. They reflect the limits of knowledge, the power of imagination, and the motivations, whether trade, curiosity, or conquest, of those who wrote them. It's a complex history, but one that's crucial to understanding the rich, diverse, and dynamic continent we know today. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.